and Benz in the booth. Scrolling clips for the truth. Pause it, run it back. What hits, what bends, what cracks. Clips with bands, we chase the truth, then we send our lands. Unite the divided, that's the line we live. Me and Benz on watch, got feedback to give.
So, welcome back to this second episode of Clips with Benz. This morning when I woke up, I found myself kind of in a similar situation that happens when you wake up and you really can't believe some of the stories that you've heard. And today was really no different. And so I decided Clips with Benz basically is my effort to explain the Cartesian Crisis and doing our best to find ways to reclaim reality in some way. And this is going to be more and more difficult with AI coming as quickly as it is. But just to give you a kind of a lead in as to what caused my friction this morning. And before I do that, I'm just going to say, this is Benz, everyone. Welcome to the show, Benz. Benz is really enjoying the sunshine right now. It's been cool in the mornings, and I have a patch of sun down here on the carpet. So if he jumps off in the middle of the podcast, we're just going to keep on rolling. Anyway, coming back to this morning and kind of the dilemma that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, and I think many of us are dealing with on a daily basis, is that we're hit with things every day, and it is very overwhelming. And so we don't really know what to focus on, what's the most important thing. And what happens most of the time, I think, is people just tune out, don't pay attention. Many people quit watching the news, and that's probably a very healthy thing overall. But there's still things going on in the world that I think are important to address and acknowledge head on. And one of those things hit me this morning. Sorry about that noise. One of those things hit me this morning. Basically, it's a story of UK rape gangs. There's a new report that has come out. I did a Grok fact check on it. It checks out. But basically, it's an ongoing story of investigative journalists who have been talking about this for 50 years. Basically, Pakistani gangs have raped and sex trafficked over 250,000 white UK girls. And again, just do a quick search in UK rape gangs, and you will see the facts displayed there. I didn't believe it this morning when I woke up and I saw that. I hadn't heard really the story. Of course, I think we've all seen the movie Taken, and that was kind of an individual story of Liam Neeson and his daughter. Basically, Liam Neeson's daughter was kidnapped on a trip to, I believe, Paris or something, and the whole story is Liam Neeson chasing these gang members, and I can't play the clip. I wish I could, because the clip is exactly how I felt this morning. Liam Neeson answers the phone, and one of the rapers and gang member who basically kidnapped his daughter and was going to sell her into sex trafficking trade. He's on the phone with him, and he tells the guy, "I don't have money, and if it's ransom you're wanting, I don't have it." And he gave the guy an opportunity to let his daughter go. And if he didn't, basically said what this clip shows here, what the headline on this particular transcript is, he has a very particular set of skills. And I think we all wish we were Liam Neeson at some point, especially in a movie like Taken, which to me was a super iconic movie. but it's kind of the same scenario that I think each of us would dream if something like that were to happen to our own daughter or our own child. You know, jail doesn't do justice for a system that allows 250,000 girls over 50 years to be kidnapped and raped and basically sold into sex slavery. And so it's, slavery is one of those things that we talk about in America a lot, and we've talked about it like it's ending or it's ended. And we're talking about reparations. We're talking about all these different things, which I'm not going to go into detail in here. But I guess the moral of it is we haven't even solved the problem. We are simply distracted and divided and maybe too fearful to even talk about these kind of subjects. And that really got me thinking as to why. And going back to the kind of the initial purpose of Unite the Divided was me and my buddy David sat down and we tried to understand how we got to where we are in society. And rather than playing the game of right versus left and, well, it must be a Republican's fault or a Democrat's fault or this person or that or this sex or that. I mean, really, to me, anything that you can draw a line between one human and another and say we're different in this way is a tool for division, and it's a tool that has fed our what I'm going to label here, and it's not my label. It's Bret Weinstein's label of the Cartesian Crisis. And what I'd like to do is play this beginning clip from Bret, because I don't want to take credit for it. I've used a lot of the things that Bret and his wife Heather have shared over the last few years since I've started the podcast. And I started listening to them again because my buddy David said that I should. I'm sorry about that. My clipping is not real good just yet, but there we go. How about that? So I guess the moral of the story is I want to talk about the Cartesian Crisis, and I don't want to belabor the point of what the Cartesian Crisis is, but I feel like it's something that everyone kind of should know about, just in a sense that I don't want you to feel alone, that you're overwhelmed and that you're afraid of kind of what's going on with rapid AI and is our education system doing what it needs to do to protect humanity, to move our kids in the right direction. We're talking about, war in Iran and all these different things, and it's just very distractive. So this clip is a fairly long clip. I don't know if I'll go all the way through it. It's 5 minutes. So you can skip through 5 minutes if you don't want to hear it, if you've already heard it. But basically what I want to do is share it, and I may stop along the way and talk about some of the different things that resonate with me and hopefully resonate with you. So without further ado, here is the clip.
The Cartesian Crisis is a state in which all of the things that you thought you knew for sure are less and less certain.
Benz has gone to the
where
sunshine.
The processes that produce knowledge, let's say, have become unreliable. The entities that report the highest quality thinking are corrupted. And so you're left struggling to figure out what to believe, and that's a very frightening state to be in. It's not a desirable state. And so the question is, well, what are you going to confront that state with? And the answer is, well, let's say you found yourself, let's say that somebody had dumped hallucinogens in the water supply, and everybody was suddenly out of their minds because there was a chemical interfering with their ability to perceive like normal. Well, you wouldn't be hopeless. You would want to start figuring out how you operate in an environment where your perceptions are not accurate. And you can do it. Actually, the movie A Beautiful Mind, about the mathematician Nash, is a story about a guy who discovered that he had schizophrenia, had a brilliant mind, but had schizophrenia, and learned how to distinguish between his unreliable perceptions and reality such that he could operate. He was smart enough to be able to function in an environment where his perceptions were very low quality. And in some sense, we're in that boat. And so I think that you and I are sort of developing or building out that toolkit and labeling things as we come to understand them, describing how to operate in such an environment. And we know that in part that this is working because certain things come back to us. People who meet us mention some of these things and not others. And we know that the ones that they mention are things that have gotten through, and maybe the ones that we never hear need a little reframing or rethinking. So anyway, that's where I am, is building out that toolkit. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, I just, apropos our conversation earlier this morning, I said to you, I feel at this point like any paper that I read, I need to do some due diligence and make sure the authors are real people. Like it's at that level of chaos, and we just can't take anything for granted. It's not, in part, I think this is why people are ever more, people have always been, but people are ever more driven to want to just trust the authorities. This isn't my domain. I can't think this through for myself. I don't have enough information. Just find the talking head that makes the most sense and believe them. And that can work if you have actually vetted that person by being extraordinarily skeptical early on, right? And checking in repeatedly, because people who were reliable become unreliable. But when you're talking about the written word, scientific papers, especially once you're into things like social media, the chances that you're not even dealing with real people, that this might not even be work that was generated by a human being, is ever more difficult to decipher. And therefore, more and more people are just throwing their hands up in the air and saying, I can't, I know I can't, therefore I'm just going to, pick a course, make a decision about who to listen to. And sorry, you're not going to be able to veer me from that path because it's not worth it, because you are offering no alternative.
Yeah, we've never needed experts more,
right,
and had less reliable access to them. And it's not that experts don't exist, but you cannot use any of the proxies that you would ordinarily use to identify them.
Right.
Really, the only thing that works is track record. Mm-hmm. So, that is the Cartesian crisis. And okay, somebody dumps hallucinogens in your water, you've got to figure out how you're going to operate and not harm yourself in that context. If you find yourself in a hall of mirrors, right, the rules for moving in a hall of mirrors are not the same rules that exist under normal circumstances. You're going to have to realize that just because you see a reflection of yourself in one direction doesn't mean that's not the direction to move. So you're going to have to start figuring out, where there's a barrier, where there's a passage.
Don't you think it's cruel to put those two scenarios right next to each other?
Yes, that was ill-conceived.
Really unfortunate.
Yes.
So you're now hallucinating in a hall of mirrors.
That's not good.
I mean, that is what it feels like sometimes, but that's terror right there.
Yeah, that's not a good. It's better than a hall of phones, but
nope. You can ignore the phones. Turn off your notifications. Ignore the phones.
Well, but you can turn off the mirrors.
Walk around blindly and hope you don't break anything.
Right.
I just love them. So funny how they communicate with each other, and they're trying to obviously talk about super important topics, and at least what I would consider super important topics. And I think they mentioned a couple things that I want to kind of hit on here, and one of them is a track record. What track record does the people that we look to have? Like, how often are they giving us truthful information, or at least information that we feel they are trying to be truthful at? And then you start looking at all the stories that have happened over the last, you can go back to 40 years of where this UK rape gang started. But I mean, we've had all the different war propaganda stories that we've had, all the way, we could talk about a bunch of them. There's probably a couple dozen of very well-known what I'll call psyops, but things that are happening to larger chunks of humanity that are, basically us being manipulated by a larger system for whatever reason. And again, without focusing too much on it, I mean, this UK rape gang thing popped into my head, and I guess I just want to tell you that I'm vulnerable myself, because I'm like, man, I could do a whole series on this one story, but it's already being done by someone else. And I don't remember the name of the movie that came out a few years ago, but basically it was talking about human trafficking, and it was super, I think it was super popular for a while, and it basically circled back around to the Jeffrey Epstein story, and this is all the rage and all the reason why people were so mad about the Epstein story and what has or hasn't happened with it. But again, what I'm going to just point to is we have to call out lies as quickly as we can, and we're all overwhelmed. And what Bret said, the trust in the institutions and the systems that we used to have trust in is no longer super reliable. And what that causes is an overload in our own brains and our own ability to process things and not be dragged into the mire with each particular thing. What I promise you with Unite the Divided and with this podcast, Clips with Benz, where Benz disappeared back down into the sunshine, or other Unite the Divided podcasts that we do, is we want to create a track record that people can trust. And part of this whole thing to me was building. Again, I didn't coin this name, the truth-seeking apparatus. That's something that actually came from Bret on a very early podcast. I want to say like 340 something. But I was working on this concept of how can we use technology, and this is really before AI really got super popular. How can we use technology to put the smartest people in virtual rooms, ask them questions, and get as close to truth as we possibly can in the fastest amount of time. So the first instance that we tried to do is, okay, let's act like COVID version 2 is coming down the pipeline, rather than responding the way we did and allowing institutions and countries and authoritarians to lock down everything, tell us what we could or couldn't do, what we should or shouldn't say, all these things. We need to be able to knock that story out really, really fast. And I think the faster we can get to the truth, or what is closest to truth, the less damage we do over time. I think whatever you believe about COVID, I think our handling of it has done much more harm than good, especially over the long haul. Kids being closed out of classrooms, forced to inject experimental drugs into their body, and again, a whole nother rabbit hole of things I could talk about in that, which I'm going to start working on. Got a new podcast series coming out with Dr. Roy. I don't know that I'm going to be sitting in the seat next to him every week, but I think I'm calling it the Dogma Doc, and we're working on that. Going to narrow it down, but basically, and the subline might be something like Becoming Unscripted. Just to circle back around again, so like the goal for me with Unite the Divided right now is I don't want to be behind the camera all the time. I want to put the right people in the right seat who are looking for truth in their particular area of interest. I've got so many different areas of interest that I'm not focusing on right now because I've been trying to get these podcasts off the ground, which is becoming easier and easier. Shout out to Travis for all of his help in doing that. Shout out to Brent, my buddy, who helped with some of the old production, and of course Dr. Roy, who's sat down for many, many episodes. But just to kind of wrap this particular podcast episode up, what I want to do is do a short series on what I believe the Cartesian Crisis is, and work on a path to solving problems with our institutions at a local level. What does that mean? That means to me that I know that you sitting at home don't have the time all the time to go down the rabbit holes of every story, and to, it's hard to care about everything at the level of becoming an expert in that area and spending the amount of time in research and investigative reporting in that area. But my goal is to find people who are like-minded in a sense of they want to be truth-seeking. They want to be truthful as possible to the people that they're talking to via a podcast. And more importantly, I think this is something that we should have all learned from, is we need to acknowledge when we're wrong and do so as quickly as possible. If we can acknowledge when we're wrong as quickly as possible and then pivot and tell people why we pivoted and here's the information that has changed, I think that's something that I can trust. If I have 1 or 5 people in a think tank and their sole job is to analyze new data that's coming in and have very challenging conversations and engage with others who don't agree with him on everything and have a civil debate about those things, and then come to some agreement in the middle that, this story has nuances, but here's what we think is closest to truth now. I think if we can do that, then we can hopefully, again, get to a point where you and I can spend time doing the things we love and not worrying that what's the next thing that's going to happen that could impact my family, or what's the next thing that could happen that is going to be someone at a higher level in government or institutional corruption that is going to do more harm to us than they could ever do good. So that's it. That's kind of the high level thought behind this series that I'm going to be creating. I'm going to still try to dig through clips and come up with things that I feel are relevant, share those with you. And as always, I really want your feedback. If you want to yourself get engaged in a podcast similar to this one, I would love you reaching out. And I've got several different projects going on right now that I'm really excited about. And I think that's how we solve some of these problems. We just need people that are passionate, curious, and focused on solving things and sharing that information with others. So as always, sending love to you all. Please, if you have the ability to support us in any way, either through your time, talent, or treasure, we have a Patreon account. You can subscribe monthly. I've got some really, really good friends and humans who are giving me money on a monthly basis right now without anything really expected in return. My good buddy Jerry at Lawn Masters is one of them. My good buddy Jason at Crystal Ball Carpet Cleaning is another. And my good friend Jeff at Bossy Title is another. And I can't express how important and how receiving that money and knowing that I'm trying to do something with it that will help them and all of our families in the end. I just can't thank you guys enough. So I appreciate it. Sending love to y'all. See you next time.
Yeah. Me and Benz in the booth. Scrolling clips for the truth.
No Benz.
Pause it, run it back. What hits, what bends, what cracks. Clips with bands, We chase the truth, then we send our lands. Unite the divided, that's the line we live. Me and Benz on watch, got